What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue to work on the Subaru and get the car even closer to being ready for paint. Now, if you guys have an 02 to 07 Subaru Impreza, WRX STI, just an Impreza or a WRX, you guys might know that the rear quarters tend to rust. Now, before you freak out and wonder what this is, I had some rust here, and I had the STI piece. I actually have one right here. I'll lay this out so you guys can kind of get an understanding of what this is. So this piece is technically what the STI has on the rear fenders, and what it does is it actually lays right here. So as you can see, I had one on here at one point, and what happened was I was still on coilovers, and it was secured, it was sealed perfectly to the body and everything. And while I was still on coilovers, I hit a bump, and I actually knocked the piece partially off. Now, it was still secured down here, but it was flopping around up here. So I couldn't rip it off of here because I thought it would break, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna re-glue it right here. But what ended up happening was there's a seam and a gap you could actually see into, and it just looked really bad. So I broke that off on both sides, and I bought new ones, and I'm going to be replacing it. So this is kind of the process of getting yourself prepped for these pieces if you were gonna do so. I will link it down in the description. So if you guys did want to, you know, if you have rust brewing back here, I suggest you take care of it as soon as possible, because if it gets higher than where this piece can cover, you better do fender flares or something, because you're not gonna have any material to cut out. But right now, I am going to be taking my drill and a wire wheel and cleaning this up and taking it down to metal. Now, luckily, there's still kind of like a line of where this piece is gonna sit, and that's what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off and get it down to bare metal. So this is where we're at right now. As you can see, all of the glue is taken off. I'm gonna go ahead and get a rag and kind of like get everything off. But right now, this is where we are at, and we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, so if you thought we were done with the wire wheel, you were wrong. This piece right here on the back side has 3M tape or whatever, double-sided tape, and these clips. Now, I guess for an STI, these are removable, and you can clip a new one in, I don't know. But obviously, we don't have any holes for these clips. So we're actually gonna need to remove this, take it all off, and then either break or just sand these down. You can start by ripping this foam off. And we need to make this smooth. These little bumps here, these little guys right here, this needs to be smooth. So essentially what this is gonna do is right now, you know, obviously it's not gonna sit flush because the clips are there. And in my opinion, I'm trying to line all these up and then drill holes and make sure they're all lined up perfectly is much more difficult than just sanding and gluing. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead, take the wire wheel, and hit all this stuff. So one more thing I completely forgot. I did pick up one of these bits right here, and I've used this before, and they definitely help with these little grooves. Instead of, I completely forgot, I started actually using the wire wheel. This will actually kind of break it away rather than sand through it, so you don't have any divots or anything, and I think it's a little faster. So this is the difference. It's kind of difficult to tell, but right here you can see it actually made some divots and indents, and it's nowhere as smooth. And right here was with the metal bit is actually very smooth. It just breaks these off rather than sanding through the actual piece of plastic. So gonna go ahead and continue to do this and get it all cleaned up. All right, so these guys are all smoothed out. I did find that the Dremel was the most effective bit, and I know you're gonna think this one's white and that one's blue. This was the only one in stock, and since the whole car is being painted the same color, it doesn't really matter, but as you can see, there's no longer anything there that's gonna not allow it to sit flat against the car. The next thing we're gonna have to do is switch back over to the wire wheel for the drill and take all this down to bare metal. And I'm gonna air up and just inspect the underside as well. And then to seal it, we're gonna use Pour 15. It was recommended to me and seems like good stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and get this down to bare metal and apply some Pour 15. All right, so I took the wheel off, and up in here, which I'm gonna get my light, there is just a little bit of rust brewing, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out and then seal it all up. But the rest of it looks pretty good, so that's good. Alright, so the car is now like ready for the Pour 15. Pour 15 was very difficult to open, but we got it. And you can actually just use rubber gloves and just scoop it and wipe it onto the bare metal. And even things that have a little bit of paint on them will still be able to accept the Pour 15. So I did take a wire wheel on the inside of the wheel well, and where the rear bumper bracket mounts, that also got cleaned up because there was visible rust there. So that's all showing bare metal, and of course above the wheel well, which is the whole point. To attach those new pieces, we want to coat the bare metal with the Pour 15, which is apparently an agent that uses chemicals to hold the rust in. Apparently it's very good. It dries clear, so that's cool as well. So we're going to go and coat this bare metal now, and once we coat this one side, I'm gonna move on to the other side, get that side cleaned up while this side is drying, and then hopefully by the time that side's cleaned up, this side's dried, so I can add another coat and then go back to the other side. So it's very, very interesting. So we're gonna go ahead and coat this with Pour 15. So I ended up actually using a paintbrush. It actually turned out to be a lot easier, but this is what it looks like so far. As you can see, there's a kind of a gloss on there. That's it, it's just clear. So the cool thing is, I'm still gonna undercoat, or not undercoat this, but the stuff on the inside, I'm gonna spray with undercoat. But say something, if you're doing some rust repair on the inside or something, you can see underneath it, even though it's protected, which I think is really, really cool. So I'm pretty much gonna do exactly what I filmed on this side on the other side, so there's no reason to film it. So I'm just gonna go do that. All right, so I have everything Pour 15 coated in the rear, and I'm letting that dry. Apparently it takes, I look like I have a unibrow. That's funny. That takes like 2 to 6 hours to dry. It's kind of a long wait time, but that's okay. There's other things that need done, like removing these front fenders, and from a video a while ago, this stuff down here needs coated with Pour 15, so I figured take these fenders off and go ahead and coat that, so then everything is drying at the same time rather than 2 different times, which that doesn't make any sense. So gonna go ahead, take these fenders off and coat those in Pour 15. Alright, so there was a little time jump with everything. The Pour 15 is now coated on both sides, and the car is now just sitting, and I'm letting it dry. The next step for the rear is going to be taking a like 400 grit sandpaper and scuffing up the Pour 15 so it is kind of abrasive, so the new pieces that we grinded down earlier can be placed on. If it's totally smooth and there's nothing for the adhesive to grab onto, it's not gonna be as secure as it could be. So this stuff is going to get sanded once it's dry. Right now you can see it has kind of a glossy finish to it. So once that's all dry, we're gonna go ahead and sand this a little bit and then attach our STI piece to here, and we're gonna be ready to go. All right, so after sanding, it's very easy to see right here. It's no longer glossy. There's a haziness to the Pour 15. You can actually feel some of the grooves. So that's what they wanted you to do. So there's actually some, so it's not just super smooth. So probably just gonna maybe touch it up a tiny bit more, but we're close. We're very close. All right, so we're going to attempt to put this on. We've done it before, and I have a feeling we can do it again. We're going to be using liquid nails. That's what we used last time. It actually held really, really nicely until you hit potholes, but that's why we're on air now, so we don't have that issue. But we're gonna caulk and gun like this. The idea is we're going to coat the back of the STI piece. So pretty much this entire piece right here is gonna get coated in this and just squish it together. And then we have clamps like this and little guys like this, and gonna just clamp it there, and it's gonna sit overnight and completely cure and harden. So let's give it a shot. Alright, so after some finagling, we did end up getting these clamps to hang in there. It does help if you put this bracket back. It'll keep this piece from sliding back down. But this also keeps this clamp at an angle, so it's pressing straight on. So yeah, that's about what it looks like. And then like I said, we're gonna let that sit overnight. And don't mind this, I'm gonna actually fill this in with Bondo. I chipped the STI piece while shaving it, but it's a pretty solid seam, and honestly once it's dry it looks like really, really OEM. So gonna go ahead, do the other side, no need to film that one, and then that'll do it. All right, so both sides are completely glued on, and now we just have to wait for them to cure overnight. I don't want to touch them until tomorrow. I think it dries very quickly, but I'm just not taking any chances. So this is gonna end it for now, but I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow, and hopefully this video isn't crazy long. All right, so we're back. It's a couple days later, actually. So this stuff has had a long time to sit and cure and get super secure onto the Subaru. And just like we left it, obviously it hasn't moved, it's been clamped. So I'm gonna start by unclamping everything and giving it a tug or two. And it doesn't move at all. So that's kind of the goal, and that makes me happy that that was the outcome. And there it is, hanging on its own power, giving it some tugs, and this thing is definitely on there. So there's still like this stuff that I probably should have wiped off, and like I mentioned, this is gonna need a little bit of Bondo, but let's just make sure our door shuts. Beautiful. And it fits just like it used to. Mind the dirtiness. It looks really OEM, and if everything, you know, obviously this up here is raw metal from me sanding the glue away, but from above you can see that there's really no seam, and it looks extremely OEM. And that's the goal, and I'm very happy about that. So gonna go ahead and pop the other side off. So the clamps are all off on this one. You can see how it is very sealed, and there is no seam in this piece right here. It does look a little weird because it's white, but it's kind of cool because you can see really what this piece is, and it looks so OEM and I love it. So I'm super excited for when this car goes into paint. It's actually going into paint in like 3 days. So it's getting dropped off in 3 days. I am so pumped. Kind of at loss for words and thought because I never thought that I would be ready, even though I did all this work to get ready. But I'm so excited and so pumped to do this. So that's gonna end it here for this video. I'm actually gonna film dropping the car off at paint, and that'll be probably a short little video, but it'll be a lot of fun to do that. Huge shout out to Justin for helping me take the car down there in the trailer, considering it has nothing on it. I'm not gonna take it down without anything. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you are excited to see the Subaru, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you wanna come back and see what color it's gonna be. So, and as always, have an awesome day.